The milk, as you know, is a complete food, nourishes all, regardless what part of the world you come up, milk is given for human beings. But milk sometimes gets over. But Gita Mritam Mahat, because here milk is not described only as milk. Milk, as the Gita coming from Upanishads, is described as Amruta. That means nectar-like. That means knowledge that is time immemorial. That knowledge is relevant in all the times. Knowledge that is not bound by time. Knowledge that is not subject to death, Amruta. That is Gita. Whosoever partakes in this Amruta is immortalized. It's applicable to all ever since the time it was expressed by Sri Krishna. And that was expressed in 31-37 BC. And if you calculate that it happened in December of 2008, say, because that's what would be the complete year, it is 5,145 years ago, and still is very relevant and practical in the 21st century. And what is exciting for each and every one of us in this room is that this invaluable, immemorial nectarine Gita has continued to give us the unending supply of knowledge and inspiration, nourishment, and vigorment. So that's what exactly we're talking about. Again understood. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kaunsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. I salute Krishna, the Lord, the teacher of the world. Jagadgurum Krishnam Aham Vande. One who is the son of Vasudeva, Vasudeva Sutam, destroyer of the demons Kamsa and Chanura, Kamsa, Chanura, Mardanam, and who is the greatest joy of Devaki, Devaki Parama Anandam. Now Shri Krishna is described as a teacher of the world, Jagat Guru. He's a universal teacher, and as we briefly touched earlier, he's the teacher who gives us the universal message. And as Bala said, his message is not small, it's a Guru. Guru is not the one who just gets rid of Guru, that is andhakar or ignorance, but gives a big message in the form of Guru, and the message is universal. That's a Jagat Guru. And what is the universal message? A universal message that is relevant to everyone. A universal message that is relevant everywhere. A universal message that is relevant all the time. That's a true universal message. So this message that Sri Krishna has given is relevant and acceptable to all. And I can tell you honestly that without studying Gita or studying the message of Gita in whatever form you read, doesn't matter. A human life is always a search which never comes to an end, because physically you may be dead, but your search will continue in different forms. This message is nothing but complete distillation of Brahma Vidya and Yoga Shastra. Now Shri Krishna is described here in the form of Jagat Guru as a person for the purposes of meditation. Now, Brahman can be described in an abstract form, but very few of us are capable of meditating in an abstract form. Even Ken, who is in the audience, will have difficulty. He is the one who meditates maximum number of hours every day that I know for the last several years in this area. Good to see you. Now, as Rekha says, she sees Shiva in front of her when she does the meditation. Shri Krishna is just another one wonderful form that one can take in front of his mind or her mind. And again, you have to have a face that you feel familiar with, comfortable with, pleased with, satisfied with, inspired from. Keep that image in front of you. It doesn't matter what it is, because as we have discussed before, God is only one. But Shri Krishna is a perfect symbol for you to take as one of the beautiful image in front of you, because in our eyes, Shri Krishna is a Purnavata. It's considered a complete reincarnation of Brahman in his 8th reincarnation as a Vishnu. As a person, so that you can identify it, he is shown as Vasudeva Sutam. He is identified as son of this father, Vasudeva. So you can pay him as to where he comes from, what town he comes from, who was the father, you understand what I mean? So that then you can pinpoint as to what, so that way his image comes in front of you. He's also described with his attributes. Father, family name, place where he comes from, then attributes. Kausa Chadura Mardan, he has defeated him. I don't think some of the people who were there last time are here to the point I'm trying to make. Literally, there is no evil beyond our own minds. Unlike the previous political rhetoric, evil people, there is no evil beyond our own mind. There is no such thing as an evil mind. It's the wrong thinking, ignorance that makes wonderful human beings do inappropriate and wrong things. So that's what I'm trying to explain. You asked the question, Maithi, last time about terrorists, but I think discussion went in a different direction. But this is the point I'm trying to make. And Shri Krishna here is shown as the chastiser of the wrongdoers. By giving them what they deserve, he removes the ignorance, he removes the evil of incorrect thinking. Shri Krishna is also shown as a Parama Ananda. Shri Krishna as the source of happiness. Obviously, he is the greatest joy of his mother, Devaki Paramananda. He is the most attractive. He is the source of all happiness. What is Krishna? Karshati iti Krishna. Anything that attracts is Krishna, the greatest magnet. If you are thirsty for knowledge, is the person with knowledge, and that is Krishna. Karshati iti Krishna, one who attracts. So anything that attracts is Krishna. Anything that attracts is happiness. Anything that pleases us attracts us. Because once we receive, once we get it, we become very, very happy. Parama Ananda. So that is the quick overview of this particular verse. Now we move on to Trishtu, change in the pace of the next verse. Bhishma Drona Tata Jayadratha Jala Bhishma Drona Tata Jayadratha Jala Gandhara Nilotpala Shalyagrahavati Krupena Vahani Karnena Velakula Ashwathama Vikarna Ghora Makara Duryodhana Vartini Sotirna Khalu Pandavai Ranadai Kaivartaka Keshava. With Bhishma and Drona as it bands, Bhishma, Drona, Tata. Jayadratha as its water, Jayadratha Jala. Gandhara as the blue lily, Gandhara, Nila, Utpala. Shalya as the shark, Shalya Grahavati. Krupa as the speed of the water's flow, Krupena Vahani. Karna as its breakers, Karnena Vela Akula. Ashwathama and Vikarna as the killer whales, Ashwathama, Vikarna, Ghora, Makara. And Duryodhana as its whirlpools, Duryodhana, Avartini. The river of battle was crossed by the Pandavas, Sa Rananadi, Pandavaihi Uttirna, whose boatman was Krishna. Kaivartaka was Keshava. We'll talk about Pandavas as we go along, open up the first chapter. Pandu's 5 sons, Yudhishthira, Bhishma, Arjuna, Nakula, Sahadeva. Here, as imagery is given of a river. It is a river of battle. Rananadi. The sentence simply says the Pandavas crossed the river of battle. That's the one sentence. Every river has 2 banks. One bank is described as Bhishma and Drona on the other side. Bhishma is son of Shantanu and mother was Ganga, Ganges. He was the 8th of the Vasus who suffered the entire life sentence. As we go down the first chapter, we'll tell a greater story about Bhishma. One of the greatest warrior of his time. He is the main hero or one of the characters in Mahabharata all the way through. He never loses any battle in his life unless there was any trickery involved or his heart was not in it. He was grandfather of both Kauravas and Pandavas. Drona was one of the greatest teachers or archers of his time. And I don't know how many people know the story before he was actually hired by the Bhishmacharya. Bhishmacharya ran the whole business administration there before he was hired. One day, Kauravas and Pandavas, little kids as they were playing Galli Dandu. You know what Galli Dandu is, most of you? So while they were playing, the gully fell into a well. And obviously the kids could not get it out without the risk of falling down. And here was a Brahmin walking by the road, and he recognized the children were struggling and needed some help. He said, "What's going on, boys?" He said, "This is what happened. Can you help us?" So he said, "You know what? I'll show you a trick. I'm going to get that gully out from there, but I'm not going to go inside and get it out." The kid said, "What are you talking about?" So he goes to his suitcase, opens his Samsonite, and takes out a bow and an arrow attaches the arrow to the bow and hits that gully without any mistake, and gully shoots up in the air and he catches it and he said, here's your gully. So he was one of the greatest archers, and I think they came back and told the story of Bhishma, who summoned him, talked to his background, and finally he became the teacher of Kauravas and Pandavas. So these are the two banks of this Rana Nadi that we are talking about, Mahabharata war. Now Krupa was the mama. He was the current of the water. He maintained the speed all through the Mahabharata war. So Krupena Vahani. Now, Karna was Velakula, full of breakers. Karna. What is Vela? There are three meanings that came up from the dictionary. Vela means tide, Vela means current, and Vela means flow. So when tide is up or down, the level of the water increases and decreases. That becomes difficult when you are navigating through the river. We call it creek when the ocean water comes in. The tide goes up and down. It also means current. Sometimes there are undercurrents that we don't know. You go to the ocean and sometimes you don't know how that undercurrent is pulling you out to the water. And the flow can change in direction from time to time. So those are the breakers. And Karna was that. And his presence on the battleground, where he, with his capability, could change in different direction the ebb and flow in such a way, it was not easy to fight against him. So he was described as Velakula. Ashwathama and Vikarna are the terrible Makaras. Now Ashwathama is one of the only son of Dronacharya. And he, as well as Arjuna, had always a private tuition from Dronacharya. I mean, it always happens for a teacher is always a favorite disciple. Because, if somebody is learning really good, the teacher wants him to be even better than what he is. So Arjuna became his favorite disciple. But obviously the blood is thicker than water, so he wanted to make sure his Ashwathama also got quite a few things. So he would get some additional coaching. Over and above what happened in the classes. But Arjuna will pick up those lessons very quickly, and Ashwathama was not so quick about it. So he became jealous, and he was playing on the Kauravas team at that time. And Vikarna was the youngest of the 100 Kauravas, and I don't know how many people in the audience know. He was the only one of the 100 Kauravas who got up at the time of Draupadi Vastraharan and spoke against what Duryodhana was doing. He had the loyalty of his brother, so he fought on the other side. He was the most powerful, one of the greatest archers of his time, but he had some conscience within him. So they're talking about Ashwathama and Vikarna, very powerful warriors at their times. They're both pluses and minuses. And these were the Ghora Makara. And I said sharks. And I know everybody is surprised when I said Makara, I'm translating as shark. Makara has lots of meanings too. But the three major meanings of Makara, one is basically a crocodile, everybody knows. The second is shark. And the third one is any large marine animal is also Makara. So in this case, instead of just calling crocodile, I called him basically as a shark because they have a lot of undercurrents within their personalities. Then crossing the river of the battle, and to cross such a terrible river is not easy. Because so many undercurrents, so many sharks, so many crocodiles. It's only possible, you cannot swim across, only possible by a boat. But the whirlpools and breakers and the sharks and wild marine animals is impossible. But you also need, with a boat, you need a boatman. And you can't find a better boatman than Sri Krishna. So Sri Krishna is described as their Navadi or boatman, Kaivartaka Keshava. And when he says in the 12th chapter, I think 7th verse, Tesham aham samuddarta mrityu samsara sagarat, is also, I will take care of you getting across the Bhava Sagar, that means across the ocean of life, or Rana Nadi in this case, by a boat. That's what she is, Kaivartaka. He is a perfect navigator as far as we are concerned. Whether we are in the rivers with the creek coming in, or the big oceans with fierce storms that can come about. So that is, river of battle was being crossed. Other important personality described in the verse is Duryodhana. Duryodhana is called Avarta. That means Marathi called Bhora, whirlpool. Now remember, he was one of the greatest scheming person in Mahabharata. When Yudhishthira and his brothers were sent into the forest for 12 years and 1 year in Ajnatvas, for 13 years he pampered Bhishma and Drona to such an extent, and they were getting old too, that they did not have the guts to stand in the court when they were doing immoral act of Draupadi Vastrahar. I mean, you can see how much amount of negative influences take place when people are bribed in that particular fashion. We just have to go to Washington or state capitol. Bribing, that's called, what are they called? Special? Lobbyist, yeah, that's what I mean. So he was a perfect lobbyist who was able to change the thinking of the people with conscience that they should be. He also recognized the capabilities of Karna, and when he was described as not a princely person, he gave a small kingdom, made him a prince. So he had three wonderful pro ball players on his team in Bhishma, Drona and Karna. And Duryodhana was not a bad warrior player himself. He felt fairly confident, and that was Duryodhana Avarta. And because of the confidence of the victory, he was willing to fight against the Pandavas. Because he knew Pandavas were not easy players either. Now, every river has whirlpools. And anyone who goes near the whirlpools, if you ever swam, I hope you never experienced it, gets sucked into the whirlpools. And if you go near that whirlpool, it's difficult to get out. And that's exactly what happened to Bhishma, Drona, Krupa, etc., etc., etc. Duryodhana was the greatest scheming person in the Mahabharata. Jayadratha Jalat. I mean, Bhishma and Drona were great players as banks. But what was the major army whose kingdom it came from? It came from the King Jayadratha. He had the biggest army next to the United States Army. Was there, so he got him on his side, Jayadratha Jala. And that was the one which filled the entire river bed. Now, if you have seen how the rivers are, there are certain parts of the river where the water flow is not as intense. Even if the river goes at a tremendous speed with a krupa that he had placed in, certain parts of the river, when they are kind of going in a wavy, undulant way, the flow is not as fast. And in those areas where the water currents are relatively slowed down, that is where the lotuses and lilies, water lilies come up. And Gandhara Nilotpala. Gandhara is the king of Gandhara, that is Afghanistan. Okay? And father of Gandhari, Dhritarashtra's father-in-law. And what happens when these water lilies are there? If you have ever tried to walk and take out the lotus, which I have experienced it, you better be careful, somebody holding on to your hand, only one foot is down in the water, because not only it is soft muck and mud, but there is a tremendous webbing, and all the fibers that come out, they make a tremendous network there, which makes navigation or even walking so very difficult. So when Gandhara Nilotpala, I am saying, he was described as the one, that part of the river which was difficult to navigate through. So Gandhara Nilotpala. Nila is blue colored lily. And Shalya Grahavati. Again, the meaning for Grahavati is again coming the same three words, the shark, crocodile, or a large marine animal, and this time I translated as a big killer whale. And it's interesting, Shalya was one of the finest charioteers of his time. Almost just as good as Sri Krishna. And as a matter of fact, because Sri Krishna was going to play on Arjuna's side, he insisted on getting Shalya as his charioteer on Karna's side. So Karna insisted that if Sri Krishna is going to play on him, I want Shalya, the other best guy on my team. And again, Shalya was obliged by Duryodhana to such an extreme extent. Even though his heart was not into it, even though his heart was with Pandavas, because he was obliged by Duryodhana, he accepted the responsibilities. And that's our principle and philosophy. Somebody who takes the responsibility. As far as charioting the chariot, he did the magnificent job. But just like I didn't promise you a rose garden, he did not promise that I will be a counselor too. The charioteer can do the physical activity of running the chariot the way the captain of that chariot wants him to run. But on one hand, Sri Krishna was the inspirator, the mentor, the guide, the counselor of Arjuna. When Shalya was a constant negative bombardment on Karna's mind. No, you are not going to make it. No, you're going to blow it again. So he was a constant negative commentator at that time. So Shalya Grahati, he was also in that Rananadi. So Shalya has a different role to play in this particular Mahabharata war. So that is how it concludes the 6th verse. Again continue in Trishtu. Parasharya vachas sarojam amalam, Parasharya vachas sarojam amalam, Gītārtha gandhotkatam, Gītārtha gandhotkatam, Nānākhyānaka kesaram harikatha, Nānākhyānaka kesaram harikatha, Sambodhana bodhitam, Sambodhana bodhitam, Loke sajjana shakpadairaharai, Loke sajjana shakpadairaharai, Pepiyamanam muda, Pepiyamanam muda, Bhūyāt bharata pankajam kalimala, Bhūyāt bharata pankajam kalimala, Padvamsina shreyase, Padvamsina shreyase. May the spotless lotus Mahabharata, Amalam Bharata Pankajam, born of the waters of the words of the son of Parashara, Parasharya Vachas Sarojam, having the meaning of Gita as its sweet fragrance, Gita Artha Gandha Utkatam, with its many stories as stamens, Nana, Akyanaka, Kesaram, fully opened by by the revealing stories of Lord Hari, Harikatha, Sambodhana, Abodhitam, in this world, Loke, relished happily day after day by the honeybees who are the right thinking people of the world, aha, aha, ahar, ahar, muda, happily, pepiyamanam, sajjana, shatpadaihi, with 6 legs. May it be for the good of the one who wants to destroy the blemishes of the Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga mala pradvamsinaha shreyase bhuyat. Bhuyat shreyase kalimalam pradvamsita. This is the verse to praise Mahabharata. He says, let it be for the good of all the people. Let this beautiful epic be for the moksha or liberation, completing the final and most important purushartha, most desired purushartha for the human existence. It destroys all the problems of Kali Yuga, Amalam, Kali Yuga Amalam. Destroys all the problems of Kali Yuga. What is Kali? Again, Apte tells me, Kali he means strife, quarrel, dissension, contentions. Kali also means war, battle. It also is the fourth of the yugas, Satya, Treta, Dwapara and Kali. It lasts about 432,000 years and it started on 13th of February 3002. That is day before yesterday. It was the birthday of Kali Yuga, but it was about 3002 BC, the day Sri Krishna died. The war took place in 3037 and died in 3002. Now this Kali Yuga is a period when the people get easily caught up in raga dvesha, that means attachments and aversions. This period when the people are very selfish, is a time period when the people lose their moral and ethical values, the time when the people have, because of all these things, lots of problems. And amazingly, as it may seem, through telling the beautiful stories which are woven into other stories, there are so many educational lessons, guidelines that are given that we should read Mahabharata. And if you want a shortcut like what we are doing today, go directly to Gita. If you really want to learn ethics, which is personal, social, political, best place is Mahabharata. If you want to learn the values that Sri Krishna has summarized in the 13th chapter, 7th to 11th verse, again Mahabharata. Beautiful logistics, how to deal with different things in our life. So the stories and interpretive illustrations, again, is in Mahabharata. Now, lotus, that is Mahabharata. Parasharya Vachas Saroja Kamalam. Where does lotus come out? Come out of the water. Comes out of the water of words. As we described Sri Krishna as Gopalananda, talked about words again. And they spring forth from the mouth of Parasharya. That means father was Parashara, mother was Matsyagandha or Satyavati, who became subsequently wife of Shantanu. And the child who was born of the union between Satyavati, at that time Matsyagandha, and Parashara, on the island, is Vyasa. It's called Krishna, that means because of the dark color of the skin. Dvaipayana, that means island. Krishna Dvaipayana Vyasa, that is the name of Vyasa, descriptive term. And it has a sweet fragrance of the meaning of the words of Gita. That's what exactly what this particular verse was talking. Now, again, every word has such a intense and deep meaning. He's talking about fragrance. The fragrance, when I say to you as fragrance in the form of word, it does not give you the bouquet. What you are hearing on your ears are just the words of a fragrance. But the fragrance has to be experienced. The meaning of the words has to be understood, assimilated, and enjoyed. So when he's using the meaning of the words, has a tremendous powerful impact by itself. Words of fragrance is not the same as experiencing the fragrance itself. That fragrance has to be assimilated, understood, grasped, and most importantly, reflected upon and put into day-to-day practice. You can see the picture of lotus on your computer screen. But that has to be agrana, that has to be really smelled. You have to personally experience it. So reading the words from the book of Gita or any other book means nothing unless you are able to get the bouquet or to understand the meaning. So meaning is the words coming out of the mouth of Parasharya, that means son of Parashara. Now he's talking about the stamens of the lotus. And the flower which has the most fragrant stamens in the whole wide world, and one of my favorite, remember that, you know that, is the saffron flower. Those are the stamens that you take out and we use it in all the sweets that we have. And lotus flower is not only fragrant, but it's also beautiful. So that is why the stamens of lotus flower are described here. And because of the presence of Sri Krishna, it has become so beautiful. The Mahabharata is the story of the Lord, Hari Katha. And that's why the meaning are so powerful and so fragrant and so helpful for us. Without the Sri Krishna, that lotus would not have bloomed. Now, the Surya Kamal rises with the rise of the sun, Surya Kamal. Kud rises with the rise of the moon. It has to come with the rise of the moon. So some kind of a exciting stimulus is essential before the flower can bloom. So in this case, Harikatha was the stimulating factor for this Saroja Kamalam to become Prafulla, as we are learning here. Now he said, all these people are Shatpadaihi. That means all these interested individuals, human beings, are described with 6 legs like honeybees. When somebody is called 4-legged, we get mad. And here he is described as Shatpadaihi. But that's absolutely right. Don't feel offended. Because you got 5 senses, ears, eyes, nose, tongue and skin, 5 senses and the intellect. So these are the 6 legs through which we advance or fall back. So Shatpadaihi Rahirahi, that means over and over again. So people are likened to the honeybees with 6 legs, human beings with 5 senses, sense organs and intellect. To think, to reflect, to understand, assimilate and put into practice. And Gita is the destroyer of all the problems of Kali Yuga. Problems caused by likes and dislikes, raga dvesha, attachments and aversions. Back to Anushtup again. Mukam kaloti vachalam.
Mukam karoti vachalam.
Pangam langhayate girim.
Pangam langhayate girim.
Yat Krupa Tamaham Vande
Yatkrupatamaham Vande
Paramananda Madhavam.
Paramananda Madhavam.
I salute Sri Krishna, the Lord, Madhava. Aham Paramananda Madhavam Vande. Whose grace makes the mute eloquent, Yat Krupa Mukam Vachalam Karoti, and causes the lame to scale the mountain tops. Pangam Girim Langayade. Now here the praise is dedicated in this verse to the Lord. The Madhava is the name of, another name of Sri Krishna, another name of Bhagavan, Sri Krishna. And as everyone in the audience knows, the six basic qualities of Bhagavan are Jnana, Vairagya, Virya, Yasha, Shri and Aishwarya. So here she is described in the form of Aishwarya and Shri, the wealth and resources, that is, the back part is described here. And whose expressions only will be Paramananda, are essential for the fullness in our life. Paramananda Madhava. And Yat Krupa, that means whose grace, Lord's grace is absolutely necessary. And as we have discussed before, and I have reminded you, I'll be repeating the things over and over again, is that we need Lord's grace. Grace is the graceful expression of karmaphala. Karmaphala is something that we do. Phala we get is drishta and adrishta, seen and unseen. When we perform the daily unselfish, society-centric activities, we get positive benefits which you can see and positive effects that we do not see. The effect is both physical as well as psychological. When we do the prayers, we connect with the Brahman during the concentrated prayers and meditation. We try to, and as Ken has succeeded umpteen number of times, we actually connect with the omniscient, omnipotent and omnipresent Brahman and gradually get the knowledge, gradually assimilate all the strength, gradually gain all the wisdom, understanding what is important, what is not important. And when you understand it, that is assimilation, you put that knowledge into actual practice. That is the key. When you come to realize that when you are helping your patient, working with the patient, you look at the patient as the God itself, and serving that patient is equivalent to serving the God. So your service is 24 hours around the clock. Then you have understood it and practice it in your daily life. As we discussed before, it requires prayatna, kala and daiva. You need hard work, concentration, prayatna. You need patience and persistence, kala. And over a long period of time, and sometimes through several life cycles, the unknown adrishta phala will continue as it gets accumulated in your savings bank account. Don't worry about banks these days. But suddenly you'll find that adrishta phala will give you a sudden reward in front of you, and it's like a last straw on the camel's back. Instead of breaking it, will take you to a certain level of enlightenment. Whether the action done in the immediate past or remote past, it doesn't matter. But when that grace affects that particular individual, the mute becomes a fabulous Sanskrit poet in the form of Kalidasa. The lame person is able to not only walk a few steps, but is able to climb over the Mount Everest. With the God's grace, Savitri can get Satyavan back, and Markandeya can get his life, and Nachita can get back to his great father's love and his life back. But that only comes through the process of grace. And when we talk about prayers are the key to getting the God's grace, what I'm saying is that prayer that is done brings about a tremendous amount of invisible force, and it is not dependent upon the length of the duration of the prayer. I'll tell you why and how. You may have heard the story many times, I've told it before, but some stories are worth repeating. Vadu, this is Narada story. And Narada was one of the brilliant minds in our Puranas, and he is a tremendous devotee of Narayana. And of course he had a little ego, little is an understatement. He thought that he was the greatest devotee of Narayana, which he was, which he is. But he wanted to hear from his teacher Narayana that he indeed was. I have done it umpteen number of times with my teachers. So he goes to Narayana with the ego in his head and he says, Narayana, who is your greatest devotee? And he expected he's going to pat on his back, yeah, you are not the greatest devotee. He said, and he gave the address of somebody else in Timbuktu, and he goes there and visits him and finds that this guy is a farmer, kind of plowing the barren land, working day in and day out. Comes home, takes a shower, prays for 5 minutes, and he's so dead tired, gone to sleep. And he comes back and asks Narayana, I want to talk with you, because I did go and see that guy that you're talking about. And he says, Narayana says, so I'm sorry, I've got to go for a conference right now, but all the gods are getting together, but would you kindly hold on to this pot of oil and go around the earth 3 times to get sanctified and come and see me, we'll talk with you when you come back. Obviously he came, but oh, by the way, don't forget, don't drop a single drop, otherwise we won't talk. So of course, Narada follows the instruction to the T, goes around the earth 3 times on his private jet, and he comes back and he gets the appointment with Lord Narayana, and he says, okay, let's start. And by the way, I did not drop a single drop on the way. He said, very good, Narada, have a seat now. He said, how many times did you have a chance to stop and do the prayers to me? He said, what are you talking about? I was busy concentrating on that part. I had no time to do that. He said, yeah, that's the point. That guy was working day in and day out, but he did find 5 minutes of his time to do the prayers with great intensity and great devotion. After he took a shower, the bath, took care of the children, the parents, and his wife, kissed them, and those 5 minutes are worth a lot to me, because he looked at toiling the soil, creating the food, sharing the food with the neighbors and the atithis to come to the place who live in the community. That was love 24 hours a day. So yours is good, but you still get B plus and not A. You understand what I mean? So that is the point. So the thing is, it is the intensity and the depth and the heart that you put in the prayers, and not how long you do. And there are various ways in which you can do the puja, prayers. You can do that bhajana, kirtana, manana, shravana, vididhyasana. You can do various ways in which you can do the same kind of prayers. And the thing is, that knowledge has to be not only assimilated, but put into the day-to-day activity, that whatever activity one does, and once the individual is able to recognize that every activity which is done to serve others is in the service of the God, and that really comes from the heart, not because of the words that are being expressed, then your knowledge is been properly assimilated, and it has to be a second nature. And the final verse is the verse which describes the various beings who praise this all-knowing Lord. We'll finish that and then stop. Again, it's Trishtu. Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Maruta Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Maruta स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवै
स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवै
वेदै साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदै
वेदै साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदै
गायन्ति यं सामगा
गायन्ति यं सामगा
ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा
ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा
पश्यन्ति यं योगिनो
पश्यन्ति यं योगिनो
यस्यान्तं न विदुः सुरासुरगणा
यस्यान्तं न विदुः सुरासुरगणा
देवाय तस्मै नमः
देवाय तस्मै नमः
To the Lord, about whom Brahma, Varuna, Indra, Rudra and Marut sing divine songs, hymns of praise. Yam, Brahma, Indra, Varuna, Maruta, Divyaihi Stavaihi Stanvanti. The one whom the singers of Samaveda praise by singing with a full complement of limbs in the order of Pada and Krama and the Upanishads, Yam Samagaha Sa Anga Pada Krama Upanishadaihi Gayanti. The one who is seen clearly by the contemplative people with minds resolved in him, the Brahman, in a state of meditation, Yam Yogina Dhyana Avasthita Tad Gatena Manasa Manena Pashyanti, whose nature the celestials and the demons do not know. Yasya Antam Suraha Asura Gana No Vidu. Unto him the Lord my salutation. Tasmai Devaya Namah. Now he is praised by the exalted Brahma, exalted beings, and he mentions all the gods' names, that is Brahma, starting from him. Other gods mentioned are the Varuna, Indra, Rudra, Maruta, all described in Vedas. All these devas are exalted beings. They are still jiva, they are individuals. They are occupying certain spatial positions in these cosmos. Their songs for praise to Ishvara can be read in all the 4 Vedas we talk about. As a matter of fact, Rama, who is the 7th reincarnation of Vishnu, if you see the beginning of Ramayana, what is he doing? He is singing praises to Shiva. You see, these are exalted human beings. They are devas. But they are not ultimate Brahman or Ishwaras. So these are the people who are singing the praise to that Ishwara. Now he is talking about that Ishwara or Brahman that is praised by the scholars. To sing the Vedas, one needs a knowledge of various disciplines, and they are described as Vedangas or Shat are the 6 different aspects of Vedas, and those are Shiksha. I mean, see, even the word to pronounce the sh, you have to have correct phonetics. Shiksha, that phonetics, proper pronunciation of words, and you have to follow the words, the laws of epiphany very effectively. You also need to know grammar, Vyakaranam. You also need to know the rituals that we perform, the Kalpaha. You also need Nirukta, that means you need to know the etymology, that means basically you got to know explanations of difficult terms in Vedas. You got to know exactly where the origin is and the meaning of it. You also need Chanda, that means basically you need prosody, you need Anushtup, Trishtup, you need to have correct Chandas. And last but not the least, the Sharanga is called Jyotisha, which is astronomy and astrology. And he is talking about the Samavedi, the most melodious singing, the most sweet Veda to sing is Samaveda, which is a distal part of Rigveda, if you know. So these are the people who are singing the sweetest song, singing of the Samavedas, sing in a very sweet and melodious voice the praise through various hymns in the manner called Pada and Krama, and also sing Upanishads, which reveal the truth of the Lord. And finally, praised by the contemplative people. They meditate upon the truth that is Ishvara. They see Him clearly in the minds. Manasa Pashyanti. By the mind that is in a state of contemplative meditation, Dhyana Avastita Manasa Pashyanti. That is absorbed, the mind that is absorbed, tranquil and subtle, through repeated such contemplations and meditations. Their minds awaken to the true nature of the Lord, which they have come to appreciate through listening and analyzing and the teachings of Shastra, the Gita Shastra and Yoga Shastra and Brahma Vidya. And then finally, praised by the others. Now these people praise the Lord as one with the form and the attributes. That means Ishvara. This entire creation with all its glory is nothing but God. We know that. Now these are the yogis who can see the Brahman in a formless form. But he is saying that even the Sura and Asura have difficulty in understanding. Even the gods, who are the exalted beings, they sometimes, in the early phases of their growth, don't fully understand the limitlessness of the Brahman. Now, being a god or a celestial, Yaksha, Gandharva, Deva, does not mean that the individual is truly enlightened at that particular time. Just because somebody has gone to the heaven, that doesn't mean he has completely understood Brahman. What do we do when we do the prayers? Om Bhuhu, we are here. Om Bhuvaha, Om Swaha, that is Swarga, you are the heaven. Om Maha, Om Janaha, Om Tapaha, Om Satyam. When you understand reaching the final seventh step level of Satyalok, then the Devas have reached that level. But the early stages when they are in the Swarga, even those celestials have not fully understood. That's what Shri Krishna said. And they are praising the Ishvara. And that Devaya Tasmai Namah. And that Lord, the Ishvara, is the ultimate God. And that's how the Gita Dhyana continues. So the first 9 verses, what we did was the first verse we studied the Mahabharata, in which the Gita is placed in the middle and praised the subject matter. The second verse we studied Vyasa and his attributes. The third verse we talked about Jnana Mudra of Shri Krishna, who is completely under control with the whip in his hand and Jnana Mudra in the other. The fourth verse we understood the origin of Gita Amrita and Gita Shastra. On the fifth verse we talked about the salutation to the Jagat Guru. Sixth verse we talked about Rana Nadi. Seventh verse we praised Mahabharata. Eighth verse we praised once again the Madhava. And finally in the ninth and the final verse we praised the Ishvara, who is praised by other gods and celestials as well. So here is Shri Krishna, who praised here as a boatman, becomes the grace for the Pandavas who are capable of traveling the river of the battlefield. Arjuna is recognized as a hero too, because without Arjuna's deep cry for help as a Vatsa, we would not be lucky enough to enjoy the Gitamritam as we are going to. And our samsara can be a perfect description for Rananadi that each and every one of us has to travel through. And this Bhava Samsara Sagara, if we study the Gitamritam, Atra Na Samshaya. I'll stop at this stage and get the comments.